Welcome to Paradigms at paradigms.life, the radio show and podcast that brings you inspiring people with visions of a viable future for life on Earth that includes humans. Hi, I'm Baruch, host of Paradigms. Glad to be here with you. Thanks for tuning in. You can hear my voice is a little rough. I'm just getting over the flu. I've got a great guest this week. Her work is in creating gardens for people's mental health. She's going to tell us all about it, about what she does, and some of the research that backs it up. It's really interesting, and it's something that we can all benefit from. So let's meet my guest right now on this episode of Paradigms. Amy Wagenfeld, welcome to Paradigms.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to join you today.
Well, I'm really excited to talk about your work. Tell me about your work and how you came to it. We've had a conversation and I have some idea of what you do and how important it is in helping people connect with nature in terms of healing in their lives. But what do you do with people and with situations and what inspires that work?
Oh my goodness. Over 20 years ago, we were living in Boston at the time, and it was a beautiful, beautiful spring day. It was after school, if you will. And at the time, I was teaching 3/4 time in a psychology program. I was working on my doctoral dissertation. I had a small pediatric private practice. I was writing my first occupational therapy textbook, and I was planning our son's bar mitzvah. David and I were both working together in the study, and all of a sudden I started yelling and screaming and being incredibly rude, which is not typical for me. And very quietly, David stopped his work and he looked over at me and he really quietly said, "Hey, Mom, why don't you go outside in your garden for a little while?" Now, preface this by saying I have always loved nature. I have always loved gardening. It's always been a source of comfort and solace for me. And so I listened to him. And I went outside and I spent a glorious 20 minutes doing things like weeding and smelling my herbs and just feeling the light breeze on my shoulders and the sun just kissing my face. And 20 minutes later, I went back inside and I realized, oh my gosh, I feel great. I feel fine. I'm calm. I'm restored. And I had no idea what had just happened to me. All I did was go outside. And so I'm a very curious person. And so I wanted to know, what was this experience? And was this experience just a one-off for me? And absolutely not. So I began to learn about some of the nature and health theories. And certainly what I had experienced was attention restoration, which is a theory that was developed by the environmental psychologists, Stephen and Rachel Kaplan. And I also wanted to know from a therapeutic perspective, because at the time I was doing clinical occupational therapy work, did occupational therapists use nature as a therapeutic tool, sort of nature-based therapy, as we're calling it right now? And I learned that very early in the development of our profession that we did. We use nature quite often, particularly with our patients who were experiencing mental health issues, as well as veterans. So, maybe what I was doing or thinking about wasn't new, but it was certainly part of the, if you will, pardon the pun, the roots of our profession. And so it was almost at that moment that I had this aha moment that this needed to be the direction that I take my professional life. And so I began to learn about healing gardens and therapeutic gardens and learning about who are the landscape architects who are doing the work. It became my quest to reach out to them and to really begin to start to build bridges between our two amazing professions. So that's where I am.
I think most humans recognize that we have a connection with the natural world that is restorative and revivifying and at the very least it brings joy and there's beauty, but it goes beyond that in terms of actual working with mental illness or just emotional distress, but also physical healing when people are recovering from physical injury or ailment. Connecting with nature has an effect.
Absolutely. And what's really, really exciting is that the first work, evidence-based research that was published in the mid-1980s, it was just such an elegant study in which Roger Ulrich looked at the medical records of patients who were recovering from gallbladder surgery. And back in the day, people stayed in the hospital for longer periods of time post-surgery. And what his record review showed that those patients whose view out their windows was of nature, treetops and such, they required less pain medication and less intervention from the nursing staff and were discharged sooner as compared to patients whose window view was of a brick wall. So even looking at nature has health promoting qualities. Fast forward now to 2024, the rate at which evidence-based research is being conducted and published, promoting and definitely showing the mental health benefits, the physical and physiological benefits, and even the cognitive benefits of interacting with nature are just astounding. And what's interesting is that, studies are not only self-report studies, surveys and interviews and such, but when we're doing physiological measurements, that's also showing improvements in function. So there's something there. We need to connect with nature. It's part of who we are.
I would expect so. In my own clinical work, I am always recommending to people, go outside, go for a walk, hang out around plants, especially folks who live in an urban environment. Go find a place where but this is interesting. For some folks who really can't get out, they can just imagine and it still has the effect. They can just remember a time when they were smelling a flower or the beauty of a tree in full leaf or whatever, and it has an effect. We are so deeply, to say we're connected with nature, we are part of nature. Nature is what we are.
Right. Yes. That's the whole concept of biophilia, that we are inextricably connected. We're genetically hardwired to connect with nature. It's part of who we are. Absolutely. And things such as, imagining nature, looking out a window at nature, looking at images of nature, listening to water. These are all examples of ways to experience nature if you can't be outside for some, various circumstance.
I'm talking with Amy Wagenfeld, occupational therapist and nature lover, about how interacting with the natural world is good for humans. We've heard a bit about Amy's aha moment, and we're going to hear some more about her work and some of the research that backs it up. But let's hear a little music first, starting out with something from Kirsty McCall. This is Fabulous Garden from her album Titanic Days. This is Paradigms at paradigms.life.
pushing up daisies 6 feet under the dirt. And if you gave me a flower for every broken vow, we'd have a fabulous garden by now.
by inch, row by row, gonna make this garden grow. All it takes is a rake and a hoe and a piece of fertile ground. And inch by inch and row by row, someone blessed these seeds I sow. Someone warmed them from below till the rains come tumbling down. Pulling weeds and picking stones, man is made of dreams and bones. Feel the need to grow my own, 'cause the time is close at hand. And grain for grain, sun and rain, find my way in nature's chain. Tune my body and my brain to the music from the land. And inch by inch, row by row, gonna make this garden grow. All it takes is a rake and a hoe and a piece of fertile ground. And inch by inch, row by row, someone blessed these seeds I sow. Someone warmed them from below till the rains come tumbling down. Plant your rows straight and long, temper them with prayer and song. Mother Earth will make you strong if you give her love and care. An old crow watching hungrily from his perch in yonder tree. And in my garden I'm as free as that feathered thief up there. And inch by inch, row by row, gonna make this garden grow. All it takes is a rake and a hoe and a piece of fertile ground. And inch by inch and row by row, someone blessed these seeds I sow. Someone warmed them from below till the rains come tumbling down.
It's David Mallet with the Garden Song. We all know that song, and we love David Mallet. And before that, Kirsty McCall with Fabulous Garden. And now here's the next part of my conversation with Amy Wagenfeld, occupational therapist and garden designer. So what do you actually do in your work?
What do I do? Well, in addition to writing and research and teaching in a landscape architecture program at University of Washington, I also consult with various design firms across the country. Most typically, my projects are landscape focused, but increasingly I'm doing some architectural based consultations. And my role is typically as the therapeutic design consultant. So really working with the design team to enhance the usability of a space so that the quote unquote intended clients or user group can best use the space in ways that are meaningful and purposeful for them. It's sort of this building on, my knowledge as an occupational therapist and training in understanding disability and disabling conditions and how to help create the environments in which people can do their daily activities and things that they want to do. It's a lovely bridge with the skills of landscape architecture or any design profession.
So does that mean that you consult when someone is building a rehab, when someone is building a home, when someone is building a school?
Yes. And some of the projects that I've been involved with, some residential work, but also recreation centers, senior living facilities, veterans, military facilities, children's projects, including schools, play spaces, and such. Those are just a few examples of some of the projects that I've had the privilege and pleasure of working on.
So this is an audio medium, so we're talking and we can't show people pictures, but I'm wondering if you could describe a project you worked on that came with a specific, clear challenge and what your solution was.
Sure, I'd be happy to. One project that I will always hold near and dear to my heart is a sensory garden project at the Els for Autism Center of Excellence in Palm Beach County, Florida. And what I did is as the design team, I worked with the landscape architecture firm Dirtworks. We consulted and worked very, very closely with the staff at the foundation to design a sensory garden to meet the needs of the children and adults who typically are on site on the campus, this beautiful 26-acre campus in Palm Beach County. It was a really interesting project because it had to meet the needs of individuals with autism, or sometimes as they prefer to be called, autistic individuals or autistic people. It had to meet their needs, and it had to meet children's needs, it had to meet adult needs. But because of its proximity on the campus between an arts pavilion and the education center, which houses an auditorium for conferences, it had to also be a space that would be a lovely area for conference attendees or visitors to stroll. So in essence, it couldn't be a very juvenile looking garden. It had to sort of meet so many different needs, but primarily it had to focus on the needs of individuals with autism. And so designing for autism, is a beautiful, wonderful challenge because typically many people with autism experience sensory differences or sensory challenges. And how do you create a space that will meet the widest range of needs possible? So having a variety of sensory experiences, but sensory experiences that were intended to calm and sensory experiences that were intended to alert. And I think it's been a overwhelmingly successful garden. And I would love to share this anecdote that we're able to experience on opening day when one of the children, because there are on the campus two public no-fee charter schools, an upper school and a lower school. One of the children from the upper school said, because they were outside in the garden, "Can we come here every day?" And was assured, absolutely. So the children are outside, staggered times throughout the day, every day for 20 minutes. And what's really nice about the garden is it's intentionally designed. The sight lines are such that no matter where a staff member is standing, they can see the entire garden. So children and adults are free to do what they want and need to do in the garden, and they find their places. It's just wonderful and really joyful.
That is so really great. We've become much more aware of autism and of neurodivergence, and that, people are different and for lots of reasons which do and do not require explanation. We accept people as they are, and how do we meet their needs? And so this sounds absolutely wonderful.
And another thing that I should add about this amazing garden is that we really, really focused on, of course, the nature and health theories, as well as looking at the garden design through the lens of universal design, so that the garden is intentionally designed so that no further modifications are needed to meet the needs of anyone experiencing any type of difference or challenge. It's just there.
That is so cool.
It's safe and it's fun and it's predictable, which was something that was very, very important for this population in particular. It's predictability. There's repeating patterns, and so that helps to make it understandable and really calming and welcoming.
We'll be back with more of my conversation with Amy Wagenfeld, talk a bit about childhood and what children need in terms of interacting with nature. Here's some music from Ali Akbar Khan. This is just beautiful. It's called Garden of Dreams. Madhu Malati.
sit beside a mountain stream, see her waters rise, listen to the pretty sound of music as she flies. Find me in my field of grass, Mother Nature's son, swaying daisies, sing a lazy song beneath the sun. Do, 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 Mother Nature's song.
Well, that's Paul McCartney singing Mother Nature's Son from the Beatles' White Album. I always loved that song. We are all Mother Nature's children. Before that, Madhu Malati, Garden of Dreams, from Ali Akbar Khan. And now here is the next part of my conversation with Amy Wagenfeld. You're listening to Paradigms at paradigms.life. We all can benefit from the quiet, the beauty. One of the things about any kind of an outdoor setting, a garden, is it appeals to all our senses. It's, it's visual, but we can hear things and we can smell things, and there's textures and we're aware as we've learned more and more about neurodivergence that people experience things differently and that we create different experiences to enrich people's lives based on sort of what their configuration is. But who doesn't love the smell of a beautiful flower, And when you take that moment and breathe it in, it changes your awareness because you're paying attention in a different way. So I love what you're talking about and how it's for everyone.
It is, and it should be for everyone. And especially the idea of being outside, and particularly for children who, sometimes in our sort of current, very busy society, the opportunity for children to be outside is not always a top priority, and it really needs to be. Certainly, the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends 60 minutes a day of being outside. And this applies to home environments and schools. And sometimes, the environment precludes children being outside for various reasons, but whenever possible, being outside is so important.
As more and more people move into cities, we've seen that kids spend less and less time outside. I remember I worked for America Online in their kids chat program back in the 90s. And I was always telling the kids, go outside, turn off your computer and go outside and play. And this was even, 30 years ago. Kids were telling me, I'm not allowed to go outside.
Right.
I live in town and we're not allowed to go outside because there's no one who can watch me. So a lot of kids end up isolated in their rooms. And now, of course, they're using the screen and connecting with each other via games and other online things. But it's not the same as being in someone's presence, and it's not the same as being outside with somebody.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. The experience of being outside, it's really unprecedented. And, even for me, decades later, after my then 13-year-old very wise son said, Mommy, go outside, I know that when a day is challenging or I have to think something through, I do it best when I'm outside. And, I try very, very hard to honor that part of my life.
And it's different for different folks what they love. I mean, I am particularly enamored of the night sky. I love to go out and look at the stars. Now, when people live in cities, there's a lot of light pollution. It's harder to get to see the sky as it really is. But everyone can find some aspect of nature that they particularly love. Right now, where I'm staying, there's a dog park across the street, and I just sit and watch the dogs play, and it's just beautiful. They're having a great time with each other, being fun and playing in the mud. So go out and play is actually a really important instruction for everyone, not just kids.
I often say, and it is a little bit sexist, our moms were right when they told us just go outside and play. And I remember as a young child, that's what we did. After school, during the summer, essentially after breakfast, we went out and played.
And don't come home till lunchtime.
That was generous, yes. Sometimes lunch would be waiting for us on the porch. Maybe come home at dinner time, and then after dinner to go outside and to play and not come in until the streetlights came on. And we played, and we played in groups, we played alone, and we played happily, and we were very dirty and very happy and very tired at the end of our days.
Yes. And now we have this sense of danger. And we don't want our kids to be out unsupervised because terrible things happen, because there are people who do terrible things to children. And that's a reality. We wish it weren't true. And everyone who can, I'm sure, does whatever they can to try and address this issue, but it's a reality. So, wow, that means we need to create beautiful yet structured, safe environments for kids outside.
That's right. Places where they can play safely and they can be supervised as necessary in order to have the experience to be outside, to challenge their bodies, to learn to take risks. Because when you take safe risks or beneficial risks, you learn how your body works. You learn the limits of your body, which is so incredibly important.
So what is some of the evidence-based science around this?
We could start with learning first, because we were just talking about children. There have been studies that show that children who, during their school day, they're outside on a regular basis, they show improved test scores as compared to children who spend their days entirely inside. That's one little bit of evidence. Many studies have also shown the sense of attentional restoration for children who are outside. They can come back into the classroom or perhaps learn outside, depending on the educational model, but they can come back inside and they can be restored and ready to focus on their tasks, which is super important. We want children to be able and ready and open to learn. Sort of these same benefits of attention restoration are also shown to apply to people working in offices and in office buildings, having outside spaces to walk, to have meetings, to sit, to rest, and even having a very nature-fied, I think I just made that word up, indoor environment also helps to promote a sense of restoration and ultimately increased focus. Some of the other evidence, it shows that even things such as taking a walk or a run in nature versus a walk or a run in an urban environment, those who, not surprisingly, whose exercise is in a natural environment, the woods or park, they show really interesting positive physiological shifts, such as reduced blood pressure and heart rate and reduced cortisol rates. So not only are you feeling better mentally, physically and physiologically, your health is improved. And also, as I mentioned, cognitively, you're able to learn better after you have time spent outside. And I certainly can attest to that, having, experienced that firsthand.
We'll be back with more of my conversation with Amy Wagenfeld, hearing more about her work in designing gardens that help people. All gardens help people, but Amy's work is very specifically about designing gardens for people's mental health and well-being. But here's a song by Carla Bonoff called Rose in the Garden.
Well, there's a rose in the garden, and it will bloom if you're sure that you pay close attention, but leave it it room. I know your heart can be open, and like the rose it will bloom. Well, if I pay close attention, believe you room. I'm not telling any lies now. I need you, you know how. I think I can see how to let you grow. I gotta let you go. That's my face in the mirror. It's sometimes you that I see. 'Cause we've been here for so long now. I see your soul in me. I'm not telling any lies now. I need you, you know how. I think I can see how to let you grow. Let you go. I'm not telling any lies now. I need you, you know how. I think I can see how to let you grow. I gotta let you go. 'Cause there's a rose in the garden, and it will bloom if you're sure that you pay close attention. But leave it room. Thank you.
Carla Bonoff from a live performance, Rose in the Garden. Just love that. Beautiful. All right, here is the final part of my conversation with Amy Wagenfeld. Now, I have also read that there are microorganisms in soil that are beneficial to human beings, like when we're digging or just playing in the dirt, that literally have an effect on our emotional life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's good bacteria. So getting your hands in the dirt is a good thing. Yes.
So maybe people could get their hands in the dirt and they might end up not needing those antidepressants quite so much.
Yes. That could be a really interesting shift in our thinking, in our sort of a paradigm shift, if you will. Yeah. One study is a little bit of an older study, but really, really important study because it was a longitudinal study, not just sort of a one-off study or very, very short-term study. It showed that this was a study done with patients who were receiving inpatient care at mental health facilities, and participation in a gardening group showed evidence of reduced depression and rumination. What most exciting, which was, immediate decreases, but several months later, these decreases were also there. And, possibly as a result of their nature-based interventions or nature-based therapy.
Wow, that is so cool. It just makes me think that we need more gardens in all our towns and cities, and we need gardens that are not just plunked down, but that people work on and care about and feel a sense of connection with.
And that's a wonderful thing about gardens in particular, is that they can facilitate a sense of community and a sense of belonging. And it's a wonderful way for people to socialize and to connect with others. Community gardens are really great places. And when they're designed to accommodate people with all types of abilities and preferences and circumstances, then they're inclusive and they're welcoming, and they're fantastic.
You may or may not have an answer to this, but I'm curious about the relationship between gardens and gardening and being in nature and reducing violence.
There have been studies about that. Yes, there have. And that, increased greened areas, particularly proximal to low income housing, there's a notable decrease in aggressive behavior, including crimes against other people, anger and such. Yes.
That's great, because we know that poverty is incredibly stressful and leads people to not be their best selves.
Exactly.
Wow. This is so cool. I mean, of course we know, go out in the woods, go for a hike, go for a walk, stop and smell the roses. We know these things are good for us, but to really understand the depth at which they can impact our individual lives and our whole human life. I mean, the earth is a garden. The earth was a garden. And if we can bring it back to that and feel that connection and be in that beauty, it changes how humanity is.
It does. And, I certainly understand that not everyone can have the experience of going to the forest to take a hike or to go to a body of water and swim or to walk along the beach. But there's other ways to experience nature. To have a plant. That's an experience of nature, an indoor plant, as we talked about. There's all kinds of different ways to interact with nature. And, I think that however you can experience it, you're doing yourself good.
That's wonderful. Amy, thank you so much for talking with me about this work. I mean, I feel like we just scratched the surface, but hopefully listeners will feel inspired to get out there and interact more with plants and animals and even other humans.
Oh, that would be the best. Absolutely the best outcome. And I've really enjoyed our time together. Thank you so much.
Amy Wagenfeld, thank you so much for joining me on Paradigms and talking about your work. This work that Amy does is so needed. Imagine living in a world where there are gardens all over the place that people go to just to restore themselves, to relax, to think, to not think. Imagine gardens where children can play and smell the flowers and the herbs and see the beauty and be enriched by that. Such places exist. We just need more of them. If you'd like to know more about Amy Wagenfeld and her work, I'm going to refer you to the website for her design firm. It's called Amy Wagenfeld Design, and it's amywagenfelddesign.com, amywagenfelddesign.com. Amy Wagenfeld Design. Check her out. Learn about what she's doing. You might want to contact her if you're looking to create a garden space for healing and well-being. And I'm sure there are other people doing this work, maybe in your locale, if Amy's not available to you. There's so many difficult things going on in the world right now. There's these terrible wars. War is always terrible, and these are no exception, of course. So talking about gardens may seem awfully light. But the reality is, if we don't make the beautiful places for healing, we won't have them, and we need them. And imagine all these people, the ones who survive these wars, they're going to need a lot of healing. Imagine gardens in Gaza. There were gardens in Gaza. They're gone now. but imagine bringing them back. Imagine the gardens in Ukraine, bringing them back. Imagine gardens in your neighborhood, gardens everywhere. As I said in the conversation with Amy, the earth was a garden. We can make it a garden again. So Amy Wagenfeld, thank you so much for your work and for talking with me. If you enjoyed this episode of Paradigms, I hope you'll check out our website, paradigms.life, where you'll find all of our episodes archived, going back to 2009. At the bottom of that page, there's a link to my new audiobook, The Prophet by Khalil Gibran, voiced by myself and Starhawk. I hope you'll check that out as well. All right, we are going to wind up this episode with some more music and a word for the week. The word for the week is nature. Let's go outside and spend time in nature, even if it's just 5 minutes, but hopefully longer than that. And if you have kids, take them with you. All right, I'm leaving you with a song by Lorena McKennett called Down by the Sally Gardens. Beautiful. Lorena, always beautiful music. All right, Baruch signing off for this episode of Paradigms. We'll be back next time with more inspiring people. Until then, spend some time in nature and be well.
It was down by the Sally Gardens, my love and I did meet. She crossed the Sally Gardens with little snow white gardens, my love and I did meet. She crossed the sunny gardens with little small white feet. She bid me to take life easy as the breeze blowing along the tree. But I was young and foolish, and with her I did not
You've been listening to Paradigms at paradigms.life.